4 Nigerian soldiers have reportedly been killed after suspected members of the Islamic State West African Province (ISWAP) ambushed Nigerian army personnel in Borno State. According to the Daily Post, several other soldiers were reportedly injured, while military vehicles were allegedly destroyed and weapons and ammunition reportedly seized by the terrorists. If confirmed, the incident will represent another serious challenge for Nigerian troops fighting insurgents in the northeast. The reported attack occurred along the Yamate-Bita axis in Borno State, an area where terrorist groups continue to operate despite sustained military pressure. The details were disclosed by African jihadism expert Brant Philip in a report shared on his official X account. According to Philip, ISWAP fighters launched the ambush using small arms and an explosive improvised device. The attack reportedly resulted in the death of 4 soldiers and injured to several others. The terrorists allegedly destroyed at least 3 operational military vehicles during the assault. A 4th vehicle was reportedly captured. Weapons and ammunition belonging to the soldiers were also allegedly taken by the attackers. The reported seizure of military equipment could be particularly concerning because weapons captured during attacks can potentially be used by terrorist groups in the future operation. However, there is an important caveat. The Nigerian military has not officially confirmed the reported deaths of the 4 soldiers. The information currently comes from the jihadism experts' reports, meaning the casualty figures and other details should be treated as unverified until Nigerian military authorities provide confirmation. That distinction is important, particularly when reports involve military casualties. But the reported ambush comes at a time when Nigerian troops are already engaged in intense operations against ISWAP across Borno State. The military has recently reported another confrontation involving ISWAP fighters and troops of Operation Hadinkai. According to the military, terrorists attacked a military base in the Gajiram area of Nanza local government area. Troops reportedly responded and repelled the attack, killing several terrorists. Some soldiers were also reported to have sustained injuries during that confrontation. The acting information officer of Operation Hadinkai, Captain Mohammed Goni, disclosed the incident in a statement. The 2 reports highlight the continuing intensity of the insurgency in Borno. Even as Nigerian forces conduct offensive operations against terrorist positions, ISWAP remains capable of launching attacks against military targets. And that raises an important question. How are terrorist fighters still able to identify vulnerable military movements and organize ambushes in areas where security operations are ongoing? An ambush requires more than weapons. It requires planning, it requires knowledge of the terrain, and potentially, it requires information about the movement of the targeted troops. If the reported attack is confirmed, investigators will likely need to establish whether the terrorists had information about the military convoy before it entered the area. The alleged use of an improvised explosive device makes the incident even more concerning. The IDEs have been used extensively by terrorist groups in the northeast. They allow attackers to strike military vehicles before engaging troops with firearms. An explosion can damage vehicles, injure personnel, and create confusion within a convoy. That confusion can then give attackers an opportunity to launch further attacks or withdraw before reinforcements arrive. The reported destruction of 3 vehicles suggests that the attackers may have been deliberately attempted to disable the military movements. The alleged capture of another vehicle and weapons would indicate that the attackers were able to exploit the situation after the initial assault. But again, these details remain allegations pending official confirmation. The Nigerian military will ultimately need to establish the exact circumstances surrounding the incident. For the families of soldiers reportedly killed, the uncertainty can be particularly painful. Official confirmation will be necessary to establish the identities of any casualties and provide accurate information about the condition of injured personnel. The military will also need to determine whether any equipment was lost and whether the terrorists were able to remove weapons and ammunition from the scene. If weapons were captured, recovering them will become an important priority. Every firearm and ammunition supply taken by an insurgent group has the potential to strengthen its ability to launch future attacks. That is why military equipment is closely accounted for during operations. The reported ambush also highlights the difficult environment in which Nigerian troops operate. Borno State contains vast areas of difficult terrain, including forests and remote settlements. Terrorist groups can attempt to exploit these areas to hide, move between locations, and plan attacks. Security forces therefore need more than conventional military strength. They require accurate intelligence, surveillance, mobility, and rapid response capabilities. Local intelligence can be particularly important. Residents who observe suspicious movements may provide information that allows security forces to identify terrorist activity before an attack takes place. That is why the military has repeatedly called on civilians to cooperate with security agencies and provide credible information. The fight against ISWAP is also taking place alongside operations against other terrorists and criminal groups across the region. Nigerian security forces are therefore facing pressure on multiple fronts. The military has reported successful operations, including the killing of terrorists and an increase in surrenders. But incidents such as the reported Yamtakebita ambush demonstrate the terrorist group have not lost their ability to cause serious damage. That makes the situation far more complicated than simply counting terrorist casualties or surrendered fighters. A terrorist group can suffer losses and still retain the ability to conduct attack. It can lose fighters and recruit others. It can lose weapons and acquire new ones. And it can be pushed from one location while continuing operations elsewhere. That is why sustained military pressure remains important. The objective is not simply to win individual battles. It is to gradually destroy the ability of terrorist groups to recruit, arm, organize, and launch attacks. For Nigerian troops, that means maintaining pressure while protecting military personnel from ambushes and surprise attacks. For civilians, the ultimate measure of success will be whether communities become safer. They want to travel without fear. They want farmers to return to their fields. They want families to sleep without worrying about attacks. And they want terrorist groups to lose the ability to strengthen their communities. The reported attacks in Borno therefore carry significance beyond the soldiers allegedly killed. It demonstrates the continuing danger faced by troops operating against ISWAP. It also shows why intelligence and surveillance are essential to military operations. For now, the reported deaths of 4 soldiers remain unconfirmed by Nigerian military. But if the allegations are eventually confirmed, the incident will represent another deadly reminder that despite sustained operations against terrorist groups, ISWAP remains a serious threat in Nigeria's northeast. The battle is continuing, and for Nigerian army, the challenge is not only to hunt down terrorist fighters, but to prevent them from turning remote roads and difficult terrain into killing grounds. I'm Chimezum Okoro, and I will see you soon.